Outlet Liquor is your place to buy a case. Stock up and save when you shop the lowest prices available every day at Outlet Liquor. You never have to wait for a sale. The more you buy, the more you save. Only at Outlet Liquor.
What's your outlet?
Welcome, everybody, to episode 124 of Two Goalies, One Mic. I am Duane, joined by, from the Instigating Podcast, Ryan Drury. Always a pleasure to have you on, old buddy, old pal. How was your vacation in Vancouver?
Man, Vancouver was great. Thanks for having me on, man. It's always a pleasure to join you. Yeah, Vancouver's the best, man. My best friend lives out there, so that's my third time out visiting him in a little less than a year. And it's probably my favorite place in the world, honestly. If you've never been, man, it's next level. Like if you've never been to the West Coast, just outside of even specifically Vancouver, which I recommend you hit, that western coast of Canada and, upper Washington State, that whole area, just the mountains, the lakes, you just can't really beat it. I really love the place, and being up in the mountains, it's a vibe, as the kids say. So yeah, no, I had a great time out there, man. Major
vibes. Furthest I've ever gone from home is California for work. And I didn't really get to do anything because our itinerary was set in place for us the moment we pretty much landed. I was there for almost a week, 5 days. But in terms of time to yourself, you didn't get a ton of that. And I don't know. I just I'd definitely love to go there again. But I'm not a huge heat guy. I can't do anything more than 85 degrees. I'm just miserable. Anything more than that.
I think Vancouver would be a good spot for you then, man. Because it's a lot more temperate than the rest of Canada. I mean, the coast, they don't generally get the freezing cold -35s that we see in other parts of our great northern country here. But it's I was out there and they had a little bit of a heat wave. It was 32 degrees Celsius there on Saturday when I was there.
Tell me that in American. What the hell are you talking about? Celsius.
I don't even know. You guys are wonky with your non-conformist, non-metric system, but it's far less than that. Generally out there, it's usually around 22, 23. This time of year, you might actually be a good candidate to hit Vancouver. I'd recommend it.
Yeah. I definitely, it's one of my bucket list places for sure. Through this whole experience of podcasting, dating back to obviously the rant, I've made some friends in Vancouver that I never met in person. So it definitely would be cool to get out there for sure. I'm just for anything that's just beautiful that's outside of Buffalo. And I've always heard great things about Vancouver. Other places too, like Alaska. I'd love to go to Alaska.
Yeah.
And then I know I just said I hate heat, but definitely bucket list place, Australia.
Yeah, Australia would be a cool place to hit too. Great. I'm really scared of spiders and shit. The big spiders they have down there, the creepy crawlies. I don't know that I'd be a giant fan of. However, there's a great hardcore and metal scene there. And I mean, being a big music buff, particularly the underground stuff, I would love to hit Australia and go check that out.
Now, if I'm not mistaken, you guys your band just recently released a music video or something, didn't you?
So I guess the video we put out was I don't know if that's coming up on a year ago now, but
I saw maybe it was your pin tweet. I don't know.
That is my pinned tweet, the link to our video, No Line, which you can check out now, our band Clarence Street. Yeah, that was probably almost coming up on a year ago anyway. And, the band is more of like a passion project. So it's not like, we've got PR people pumping it out there. It's us, basically, me and my friend. So, no, yeah, it's out there, and it's going to be, that single is going to be part of another probably 5 or 6 song EP that we are currently working on. We've got 2 songs done. We've got a few more in the works. It's going to be exciting.
Yeah. Again, I think you're passionate about me. It doesn't matter for me. Like, people kind of always ask, like, oh, what kind of money do you make? Like, I don't make any money from podcasts. I made $0.00 since I've started this, but I enjoy it. And I've gotten to meet like a ton of people that I've never thought in a million years I'd even been able to get to meet. Make some great friends. So I'm passionate about it. I love it. So
yeah, man, that's all that matters at the end of the day. If you enjoy it, like, who cares, and if you keep plugging away, good things tend to happen.
Yeah, for sure. But I want to get right into it, man. Obviously, the last time we had you on, we talked about excuses coming out of Toronto. What was that one about? You went on your little rant. Not little rant. It was a good rant. They were blaming the ref, the officiating, right? Wes McCauley and the officiating as to why they lost.
Well, I just know that gained a lot of traction in that Tampa series, which of course, since we've spoken, they did turn around and they finally decided they wanted to rise to an occasion and win that series. I understand. It's kind of like Steve Dangle said on their podcast this week. 2 things can be true. The Leafs deserved to lose that series against the Panthers. The refereeing was also dog shit.
Yeah.
And yes, it was bad both ways, but like, I can like look at the clips and like understand the gripes that Leaf fans have. And, but again, though, and I'm glad that they weren't taking that as like the number one line. On their show, they're very objective, like they're Leaf fans, but they're like, hey, our guys weren't good enough. However, I think it's also fair once you get past that and just say, hey, we lost because we lost. Yeah. I also think it's fair, though, to point out some of the I don't know, man. I'm just kind of tired of the league. Like I've said before, and I know Dangle has said it, and I'm sure many other hockey fans feel this way. I bet you a large contingency of lifelong Sabres fans feel the same way after 1999. I love hockey. I don't necessarily know that I love the NHL. Like, I love the players in it. That's about it. Like, the league goofs on itself all of the time. And, like, it's so lame. It's just so frustrating. Like, no, like, you can't over the bones of a best of 7 series say, I don't think in any series that's ever been played that a team lost because the refs were against them. But there are moments where the league does force people to wonder, whether unintentionally or not. I think it's unintentional. I think that these guys are just dumb. They raise moments almost, in the weirdest way that lend to these conspiracy theorists.
Yeah.
Like they do, particularly player safety. Like we were talking about it on our show a couple weeks ago. Like, congrats to the Seattle Kraken for having like a really impressive season in their second year. The fact that Jordan Eberle was even playing hockey after he broke Andrew Cogliano's neck with the greasiest play, in my opinion, in sports, a hit from behind in the numbers, 3 feet from the boards. The fact that he was allowed to continue playing hockey is absolutely psychotic to me. It's psychotic. Mm-hmm. Then just a couple days ago, we see Alex Pietrangelo like take an absolute Paul Bunyan
smash. God.
on Draisaitl's arm on an empty netter. That is such a gutless.
He should have been out for the series. And I don't blame Leon for shrugging off the handshake at all.
No, absolutely not.
Like,
because how can you look at a guy in a handshake line when he does something that greasy and show him any respect? And like, look, I'm a big fan of Petro. My cousin coached him for a long time. This was, well before they ended up winning the cup in St. Louis. Thinks the world of the guy. I like him as a player. I think he's a great player. But like what he did there was absolutely inexcusable. Like you can't even write it up to me that it was like
a response to like something that Leon did. Like there was nothing preceding that justified that action.
There's no battle.
Nothing.
Him and Draisaitl aren't fighting for a loose puck. Like it's nothing. It's a nothing play that turned into one of the dumbest things I've seen this playoff. And to suspend him a game, like this always bothers me too. Like, and I want to reiterate something quickly. Like people are frustrated with George Peros, player safety, Gary Bettman, whoever, run down your list. Absolutely valid. People do need to realize though, that the players are responsible for this shit too.
Oh, yeah.
They really, really are. The Players Association is the one, not the league. The Players Association is the one that bargained hard for having the $5,000 max fine system. They're the ones that bargained hard for the repeat offender system where after 18 months, you're not considered a repeat offender anymore. Like, they're the ones that pay and bargained hard for the neutral arbitrator system for appealing suspensions. With all that said, what bothers me a lot is this whole notion of the repeat offender thing and, a guy's first time offense, blah, blah. Yes, Pietrangelo, to my knowledge, has never been fined and has certainly never been suspended before. But to say, we can't suspend him and he's never done something before. I don't care. You should be suspending the act.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that was such a gutless play. I would have given him 5 games. And there are people who are going to say that I'm being harsh.
Done for the series. At least.
The wording there alone makes it sound better, right?
Yeah.
We saw it happen to Kadri. We saw it happen with my boy Tom Wilson against the Penguins when he broke that poor kid's jaw, Zach Aston Reese.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I'm just kind of tired of it. Like, I would put it to you this way. I've never killed somebody. Tomorrow, if I do, like, would you sit there as you're the judge, Duane, and you go, well, Drury's been a really good guy his whole life up to this point, and it's the first person he's killed.
Well,
so
in our judicial system,
years.
it might, they might be showing some compassion. You never know.
And I know I'm using a very extreme example.
I know,
here,
yeah.
But the logic runs. I've never stolen anything either. What? I go steal a PS5 tomorrow at Best Buy, and they're just like, give them probation, make them pick up some trash.
Yeah,
like,
you know what I mean?
Dude, I committed a felony. Like,
yep.
I expect to. So I'm just done with that. And, to make what's been a long story short, no, the Leafs didn't lose because of the refs, but man, the league again just has these moments where you're like, how the hell?
How do you get that wrong?
It's just so goofy, man. Like the whole, I don't know.
And it's not like it's a situation where it's kind of, I don't know. Like, was it a hit to the head? Did he lead with his elbow? No, he skated up to an unsuspecting Draisaitl and fucking Paul Bunyan, hacksaw Jim Duggan, his arm. Like, Drury, if me and you do that out in the real world, we're in jail. We're arrested. It's assault with a deadly weapon. We're arrested.
There's no debate. Like, and I know we're talking about a contact sport where it's a vicious battle and this, that, and the other, but it's such a goofy, non-hockey in any way play.
Yeah.
That's what bothered me so much about it. Like, even the Eberle hit I referenced earlier, like, he hits a guy who has the puck and it's a brutal play, and I would have suspended him for ages and ages too.
Yeah.
But there's like no defense that I can find in any way for what Pietrangelo did. As much as I like him as a player, respect him as a leader, Stanley Cup winner, yeah. It was a brutally stupid thing. Like, I watched it live and was like, that's got to be a 5-gamer. Like, it's because of how stupid it is.
That's like Chris Simon shit.
Dude,
yeah,
100%.
That's 100%. Right, like, there.
I don't know, man. I'm just tired of it.
Like what if you would have hit him in the fucking head? You know what I mean? Like, what if you would have hit him in the head? Are we talking a different story then? Like, is it more than a game? Is he done for the playoffs?
Here's the issue though with what you're asking me, Duane, is that I would like to think yes, but how could anybody know what this donkey league like would do? Like, a guy's neck got broken. I can't even believe I'm saying that. Like, Jordan Eberle broke a guy's neck and didn't get anything. Mm-hmm. I saw that and was like, that's got to be like, dude, I'm for harsher suspensions. I'm with Ray Ferraro. Like, I think guys need to start getting nailed, but the Players Association doesn't allow it. Yeah. Right. I saw Eberle break that guy's neck and I was like 10 games.
What, like when Bertuzzi almost fucking killed Steve Moore over a decade ago. You know what I mean? Like, I was 100% on the boat. Never play in the NHL again. You're done.
I thought the same thing. Huh? I thought the same thing, dude. And I'm glad you brought that up, because Scott Rintoul did an unbelievable podcast series. A bonus episode's actually going to be coming out. He did this 9-part series. Everybody should check it out. It's called the West Coast Express. And it's about that line, the Bertuzzi, Naslund, Morrison line that revived the Canucks. And everybody who was anybody that was involved with the Canucks is on this podcast, including Bertuzzi. And like, he addresses it like in full. And I remember that. And I was a kid, like I was like 13 when that happened. And I was like, that guy's, I don't think he's ever going to play in the league again. And, you know, you look back on stuff like that, but again, like, that didn't happen in the playoffs. It's just weird to me that, like, but again, I think the Players Association and the way that they want supplemental discipline dealt with has had such an impact on that people don't address enough.
No.
Dale Hunter, when he killed Pierre Turgeon after allegedly not hearing the goal horn in overtime when the Islanders won, and buried him into the boards. Look it up on YouTube if you don't know what I'm talking about. It's one of the greasiest plays of all time. Like, they gave him, I believe, a 26 gamer, and he had it reduced to 21. Honestly, like, if I was the NHL in that situation, and again, like, this is a power dynamic that we're, you know, talking about. If I was the commissioner, Dale Hunter did that, and he turned around and tried to appeal it, I'd give him 35 games.
Yep.
I'd increase the suspension. You have the gall to come into my office and ask for leniency when you killed the guy into the boards. Pierre Turgeon, keep in mind, the Islanders were like looking good that playoff run. Pierre Turgeon was one of their best offensive players. He didn't play again.
Yep. Yeah, he was
like done. Dale Hunter directly impacted the New York Islanders that year.
And you know, Leon's arm wasn't the same after that. There's no way your arm's the same after that. No way.
No, he came down right where there's no padding where your elbow flexes. There's no padding there. Like, he got him with nothing but stick. I just like the whole judiciary system of the league.
Yep.
Is farcical. Like, we can argue about referees and they changed the rule book in the playoffs and this, that, and the other. I'd argue still, though, that it's bad for the most part both ways. They do not have the best officials in sports. It's just not true. They need a guy up in the sky to try and improve this. And we can argue till the cows come home about, well, this call impacted us this way. Yeah. But what I'm 100% on board with is the anger that's directed toward the disciplinary system in the league. It is completely farcical.
Mhm.
It literally is a clown show.
It
And
is.
I just, like, honestly, I'd respect the league more if they leaned into it. Have George Peros dressed in clown makeup and have him come out on Twitter live and announce suspensions, like
Yeah.
throwing lollipops at all the fans and stuff out the window. Seriously, have him
Yeah,
roll up in a
literally.
little tiny clown car with a and throw lollipops around. Like, what's the difference?
You're not wrong though. It is a clown show. Like, again, like, you know, we talked about Bertuzzi. Like, you know, I was fully on board with him never playing hockey. You know, Steve Moore never played hockey again. Neither should have Todd Bertuzzi. Or sorry,
I have a hard time disagreeing with that.
Yeah, you know what I mean? Like,
I do.
Like, and then you look at what Pietrangelo did to Leon Draisaitl, and it's just like, dude, he literally, it's not like he, you know, a flip of the wrist. He fucking swung his stick down hard.
Oh, he had his stick way back over his shoulder.
Like, literally, if you were
right
chopping
down.
logs, man, he was chopping logs. Like,
I just can't
one game
understand.
It's disgusting. It's disgusting. But
I have no idea.
And here's the thing. It was on a legitimate star in the NHL. It's not like he went and fucking did that to Casey Middlestat. He did it to Leon Draisaitl, second in the league in scoring.
Like, you know, I would say that for all you want to complain about, and a lot of people do, about the hitting the quarterback rules in the NFL, I'll say this for the NFL. They've outright just leaned into protecting the best players on the field, almost to a fault. Some of them are pretty sketchy calls, but they leaned into it. And everybody knows, like, hey, if you're going to hit the quarterback, you better make sure it's like the cleanest play of all time, because the league knows these guys are the moneymakers. I like what Gar said here, Makar's hit. I completely agree. Again, love Cale Makar. He's probably the closest thing we've seen to Bobby Orr. I know people maybe think that's a little lofty. He's probably the closest thing that we've seen to Bobby Orr in a very long time. And I know Erik Karlsson just had 100 points, but, like, I love that player. I couldn't believe that hit that he made. Like, I would have given him 5 games too. Like, I thought that was absolutely goofy.
Now put it this way. If Alex Pietrangelo before that game is told, if he breaks Leon Draisaitl's forearm, you know, that night, and he was only going to get a 1-game suspension, and that's to start game 1, do you think he still does it? Yeah, fuck yeah.
He would have done it off the opening faceoff.
Yeah. Like,
if we're
without
playing
a doubt.
that game, right? Like,
but that's why players aren't afraid to do these things or to be shitheads like this, is because the way the league polices them is a joke. But
I completely agree.
But obviously we were coming off of, you know, talking Toronto. You know, were they screwed? You know, we all saw the would-be goal. We saw it from so many different angles. I thought the original angle they had from inside the net, I thought it was a goal just based off of his reaction. Bob's reaction told me as a goalie is like, oh yeah, that's in the net. That's in the net. He went for the poke check. It slipped through his legs. He immediately clenched and he slid backwards and he was looking behind him. I was like, that's in the net. But I thought to myself, but is it going to count? Because are you going to be able to see in that? Because you can't use common sense in this league. Doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. And then I saw the reverse angle. I saw Hank break it down. And you saw they kept on showing that still frame of the puck in the net. It was after the whistle. But you saw the puck come back across the line as he was getting up when he knew the whistle had gone and it was okay to get up. So at first I'm like, I don't think that was in the net actually. And then you saw the front angle where it's very blurry, but it looks like the puck probably crossed the line, probably with the help of a Toronto stick pushing Bob's pad in the net. So what was your opinion of that whole scenario? Do you think they made the right call? Do you think it went in the net? You know, albeit there could have been goalie interference if they did it. Look at it from that angle, because he did push his puck. He did push his pad into the net. And this isn't me trying to say, hey, I hate the Maple Leafs, so I'm going to say that I was on the side of Leafs fans from the beginning, and then I made my way to the other side of the fence.
So what I'll say in this instance is, like, just based on what went on the ice, unfortunately, like, it was the right call. We can blame a bunch of people here. The ref for what? Being in bad position. I don't know. I don't know even if he's right behind the net on top of it on initial look, if he even would have been able to see it there if he changes his angle. We can blame, the lack of differing camera angles, whatever. But based on what the rule says, and hey, I'll even hear an argument about how goofy the rule is, the intent to blow the whistle thing. Yep. It's like, that the logic to that is goofy, because we can all say, well, I intended to, be a millionaire by 30. And, like it's one of those things where it's a goofily written rule, but however goofily written, it's written and it's the same for everybody.
Yeah.
And I'll say this, I agree again with our friend Steve Dangle. Do I think in my heart of hearts that puck crossed the line at some point fully? Yeah. Mm-hmm. I'm just basing that off of, my limited knowledge of physics and objectivity. Yeah. I think it's highly, highly likely that puck was across the line. Do I think, based on the way the rules are written, that goal should have counted? No, I don't. Unfortunately, you can't show me any angles. And again, I've seen the one where he gets up and it knocks off the inside of his skate.
Yeah.
That's after the whistle, unfortunately. I'm just speaking objectively, like, as a fan, like, if that goal had counted against my favorite team, I would be fuming mad.
Oh, for sure. And in the playoffs.
And that's all I have to say about it. I think it was in, but unfortunately, the way the system is, I don't think it could have counted. And I still don't think that's the reason they lost.
Yeah.
Because it's just not.
I just don't think I know Florida was a wild card team, but I think that team took a long time to get going. There was a dramatic change before the season started. They brought in Matthew Tkachuk. They sent out Huberdeau, who was an absolute assist machine for Florida the year before. That's a big transition. It took them a while to really get things rolling in Florida, but that's a very, very, very talented hockey team. So to sit here and to say, the Leafs took them lightly, I don't think the Leafs took them lightly. That's just a really good hockey team. That's one of the better, probably, wild card teams you're going to see. I'm not going to say like ever, but like it's up there. A team that just really didn't catch fire until the end of the season and started really finding their stride.
Well, look at what they've done, right? There's credence to what you're saying. They took out the greatest regular season team literally of all time.
Yeah.
And then they beat the Leafs, who had another great regular season, and we're once again talking about, well, is this formula going to work with those four guys basically making $40 million? Does it hurt the rest of the roster enough? It's weird, though, because, look, I think that there's obviously a lot of talent on that team that, could potentially break through someday. But the unfortunate reality of where they're stuck is that, yes, did they get quote unquote screwed by COVID? Sure. But lots of other teams' bank accounts and cap situations did too. Like, I don't know that you can have three guys making that kind of cheddar and successfully fill it out. Like, and again, I really question the mettle of Matthews, Marner, Tavares, Nylander. Like, Tavares is a guy.
No killers.
they rely. Tavares is probably the hardest worker of the four, just in terms of the things he has to battle against, namely his skating, which has always been the knock on his career. He's not a very good skater, and it's amazing he's still able to be a point per game guy despite that. Like he works hard. He's not the same John Tavares he was that the Leafs signed. And I know that sounds weird because he had 80 points. He had a pretty okay playoffs and like still does a lot of good things analytically. But my point, I guess, is that he's not getting younger. Then you look at the two big dogs there. Like, listen, their big four scored 1 goal through the first 4 games of that series. Then Nylander tied it late in game 5.
Yep.
The big 3 guys, the 3 guys making over 10 mil, 2 of them 11 plus, scored 1 goal. Mitch Marner scored 1 goal, and I think it was on a power play.
They, through 5 games, the 4 of them combined, 9
I'm
points.
sorry. Like, if you're going to sit there, and yes, there were some bad calls that I shake my head at, yes. But if you're going to sit there and say to me, well, it's cut and dry, the league hates us, and the refs screwed us, and blah, 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 and you're looking that stat down the face,
there's no excuse for that.
I don't really know how much further I can take a conversation with somebody like that.
Yeah.
Because, listen, I had a friend, again, who, I've been friends with a long time. He's a big Leaf fan. I'm obviously a Caps fan. And I've talked before, including on this show, of the similarities I kind of see between the teams and their struggles. Well, it didn't take Ovi and Nick 7 years to reach a second round.
No.
Now, I know they never went further than that until they did the thing, but the difference, though, is so strange. I've talked lots about the team's similarities. Here's a big difference. Up until the other day when Joe Pavelski tied him, Ovi was the active leader in playoff goals with 72. Sid had 71. And that was with Ovi playing like 30 less career playoff games than Sid. And when I look at that, it further validates the things that I said in all those years the Caps lost. When everybody out there, Damian Cox, all these experts going, the Caps would be better off trading Ovechkin. It would be better if he went back to Russia, blah, blah, blah. Like acting like he was at fault. And here's my point. The difference between the Leafs failures and all those Capitals ones was that Ovi and Backstrom constantly showed up in the playoffs.
They always produced.
They always were basically Ovi for sure and Nick almost every time, point per gamers that led the team in scoring 1-2 every single time. It was the rest of the team and the shoddy goaltending that the Caps constantly had, a graveyard of goaltenders. Thomas Vokoun, Jose Theodore, Neuwirth, Varlamov.
So many goalies.
They failed the two big dogs. Ovi and Nick constantly showed up and produced.
Yep.
The Leafs have a problem where rest of the guys show up and do some stuff, and the big cats disappear offensively. Like, we can have arguments all day about, not physical enough, don't battle hard enough. Yeah, that all probably lends to the point here. But at the end of the day, you can't have your top guys, all of them, literally making that kind of money that they are paid to score and not score.
Mm-hmm.
I have no interest in hearing the arguments. Oh, well, the refs did this and this guy threw a cheap shot. Like, I don't know, man. I don't have much more for you. One goal. Tavares, Marner, Matthews, 1 goal.
I
don't know how I can paint you a sympathetic picture here. I can't. And it makes me giggle Not only because my team won a cup, but it makes me giggle about listening to years of Barry Melrose, Damian Cox, every analyst in the book. Ovechkin's the problem. You'll never win with Ovechkin. Gotta trade Ovechkin. This guy runs people over, has 13 friggin' shots a game, and is like constantly putting up points. These guys are like, listen, I respect them as players. They're very talented. I'm not in the NHL, but in the grand scheme of trying to win Stanley Cups, these guys are bums. And I'm not trying to say that to like, be a shit disturber.
No,
argue me.
I agree with you.
How can you argue with me? Like, Leaf fans, I want them to succeed for you, but like, look, the numbers are the numbers, guys.
We've all seen The Last Dance, right? You've seen The Last Dance with Jordan.
Incredible.
Yes. Have you ever seen The Redeem Team?
Yeah, so good.
The mentality that respectively in each Kobe Bryant and Michael Jordan had. They're killers. Like, they are going to murder you out on the paint, and they're going to murder you in the paint. They're going to control the entire floor. Like, I'm not the best with basketball terminology, but watching that, I'm just like, nobody was beating them with those guys on that team. No way. Did they have role supporters? Yeah, he had Pippen, he had Rodman. Yeah, I mean, you had arguably the greatest Olympic team assembled since the original Dream Team, but you had killers, guys who hated to lose. To quote Shorzy, they don't hate to lose. You have to hate to fucking lose, man. You got to hate it more. You got to hate losing more than you love winning. And you don't have those guys on that team. You just don't.
And it might, and like, it's a hard thing that we're talking about, right, Duane, in sports, because like it's so harsh. Results. The results are the results. And one team in all these leagues wins at the end of the year. And now we're talking NHL. 31 other teams are pissed off.
Mm-hmm.
But to get paid what you got paid, and keep in mind, like, these guys cashed in before they started putting up like consistent prolific seasons. Yes, Matthews, very impressive, 4 goals first game, all this stuff. The $11.634 million deal that he signed was before the 60-goal year, and that's an incredible year, an all-time year. He may not ever do it again. Marner, same thing. Like, we're in this weird place now where like Marner's like a Selke finalist, and like people are like, well, does he have to be the one to go? It's a weird thing, but it could be a situation. Well, yeah, I agree. Like, it's a situation where you sit there and you go, I'm sure that they hate losing, but when you sit here across from me and say they don't hate to lose, I really, like, I don't have a leg to stand on the opposite side of the argument, because like, what can I bring up that proves that I'm right and that you're wrong? Like, I look at them and I'm like, and I know a lot of people were screen grabbing Matthews' hand in the handshake line, and he had the tensor thing on it. Yeah, he's hurt, and yeah, it hurts to get it hurts to get your shot off. Listen, again, I'm not saying that they have to turn in to Ovi and Eric Lindros and whoever and start annihilating people. I'd like to see them like get pissed off and body guys more, finish checks, and really at the end of the day, because it's about goals and production for these guys, fight to get to the front of the net. The rush chances are crap. Like, they get stifled off the rush and they have no answer. They don't change. But the bottom 6 guys do. Like, you can't have games where Sam Lafferty and David Kampf are your best players. David Kampf led the team in scoring in, what was that, game 2 or 3? He led the team in shots. That is like, dude, Ovi never did that. Like when they got shellacked by Montreal, Ovi had 15 shots.
Mhm.
Like, you can't have David Steckel, who was our fourth line center back then. He didn't lead the team in shots in that loss.
No.
Big Cat did. The big boy. Like, I can't find a positive thing about any of them in this loss because they literally didn't do what they're paid to do. It's unacceptable to me.
You can't tell me if whether you answer anonymously or whatever, they're not built for playoff hockey. They're just not. It's a different kind of hockey. Anybody who's played competitive sports, especially hockey, it's different feeling in the playoffs. You know, it's much more physical and more brutalizing, especially the first round. I mean, did you blow your load in the first round and, you know, is all your energy zapped? I don't know. Like, but I look at Matthews, and if you were to ask Leafs fans tomorrow, who would you rather have on your team? Even if you could restructure Matthews' contract, would you rather have Matthews or Tkachuk? Any Leafs fan who honestly says Matthews over Tkachuk, you are absolutely lying to yourself, because Matthew Tkachuk is a player built for playoff hockey.
And again, it's like I'm having trouble refuting, you know, what you're saying right now, because it's easy to sit here now because Florida won and say, yeah, of course I'd rather have Tkachuk. It's one of those things where, like, I think that, and Dangle brought this up on his show this week too. I'd really encourage everybody, you know, who's interested to go watch the Steve Dangle podcasts from this week. 2 really interesting shows.
Mm-hmm.
I think that all these guys on this team, that big 3, you want to throw Nylander in that as that 40 million group. I think that they all have elements in their game that can help a team win a Stanley Cup, but I just don't know that they can do it here together. I'm having trouble talking myself into that. And I don't know what the proper solution is.
Mm-hmm.
But something probably needs to change. Like, look, Samsonov was pretty good this year. His home road splits were very wonky to me.
Mm-hmm.
And then they flipped in the playoffs.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, he got hurt, so it's almost unfair to do this. And, you know, like, I know if Dark Guy Jason Maslico sees this, he'll freak out because he loved rubbing my nose and, oh, Samsonov. I'm like, yeah, well, I'm glad he's gone, frankly. And I feel that way again. And that's unfair. I get it.
And you can rub his nose in your Stanley Cup.
But here's the thing, though. Like, I don't want to rub anyone's nose or anything. Like, I think Jason and I were both right. I think Samsonov proved he can lock himself into runs of consistency, and he really, really improved his stock as a starting goaltender this year.
Mm-hmm.
I will agree with that. However, I said to him on our show, my biggest thing with him is that, like, last year when Florida had this disaster where they beat the Caps but then got swept in the second round, Florida wouldn't even have been in that second round if Washington didn't have Samsonov in net.
Nope, it's true.
The Caps outplayed Florida, and I was so mad because Samsonov lets in muffins, and he did it again.
He still does.
He did it again in the second round. The goal he let in that meltdown in, what was it, game 2 where they lost at home again?
Yeah, it was bad.
Where they had the 90 seconds where they basically lost the game at the start of the second period.
Yeah.
And 19 seconds in, Barkov scored.
It was glove side.
That's one of the worst goals I've ever seen.
I think it was glove side.
And yeah, it was blocker side, actually. It floated
side,
right under him. It knuckled on him, and he did, like, from the top of the circle. Like, you stop that by just having a good angle and making yourself big. Here's what I'll still say about Samsonov, not to rail on the guy, because I like the kid. Like, I would like to see him succeed, even though he screwed us. Like, spent all that draft capital on him. I think he is a talented athlete. I don't think he's a very good goaltender. I think his angles are atrocious. Like he loses his posts, and that Barkov goal is a great example of it. And I sat here not trying to be a snob to Dark Guy or anybody who's a Leaf fan, but I sat here on my couch. I watched that goal go in. And I was like, I turned to Kate, my girlfriend, big Caps fan, and she's a goalie hugger too, like wants the goalies to always do well. I turned and looked at her and I went, classic Sammy.
Yeah.
Classic Sammy. And again, I'm not blaming him for this loss either. What I want to say is he proved he can give you some quality stuff. That Wall kid goes in, thrown into the fire, played extremely well.
Mm-hmm.
That team needs help on their blue line.
Yeah.
Their blue line.
It hurt not having Jake Muzzin. It hurt a lot.
It hurt not having Jake Muzzin, but I think even if he played and was completely healthy, Jake Muzzin, I still think they lose.
Yeah,
they need so much restructuring on that blue line. I can't stand their blue line.
I'll just flat out say I think you trade Matthews. I think you trade him. You don't re-sign that guy. I think Marner gives you more. I think that.
Well, Marner's analytics and the fact he's a Selke finalist certainly lend to that argument.
I think Tavares, you're stuck with him. He's got a no movement clause unless he waives it.
I think so too, and I think it, and like it's odd that we're saying that, like we're stuck with him because the guy had 80 points, like,
yeah.
and you're going like, but what's the malfunction amongst this group where we can't score more than one goal in 5 games?
Yeah. I don't want to hear that you can't be a better team after trading your superstar, because the Buffalo Sabres are absolutely a testament to that. They became a better team after trading their superstar. It's a fact.
Well, Florida.
Yep.
Florida. Like,
well, they were still a President's Trophy winning hockey team.
Yes, but I think that they're a more complete team.
Yeah.
And are showing it now.
To my point earlier about the Tkachuk-Matthews comparison, like, if Tkachuk isn't scoring and he's not helping you on the score sheet, there's so much more about his game where he's going to have a positive impact. He's going to find a way.
I agree.
Matthews isn't that guy. He's not. He's just not. And that's
showing
that's my hang up. And maybe he turns into that guy somewhere else. Like he can, I know at the end of your presser, he's like, yeah, I want to be here. I want to get the deal done. But if I'm a Leafs fan, man, I'm looking at this like, if we run this back again with the cap space that we don't have, the help that we desperately still need on our blue line, even with Jake Muzzin back. I mean, can you afford to bring back Ryan O'Reilly? I mean, you spent a ton of assets, a ton of equity on rentals, and I don't care how great Samsonov might have played or didn't play. You need a goaltender. You need a legitimate starting goaltender. Samsonov proved he could be a good 1B. He can be your Swayman. You still don't have a starting goalie, in my opinion.
Again, I don't know, man. Like, I don't have a lot to, refute. I think that this Wall kid could potentially be their answer. And what a positive story that would be if he turns into the dude, because the Leafs have not developed a goalie in, ever. Like, how long has it been, Well,
can they afford to hope and pray that this guy is the answer? Or would you rather, with your window being literally right now, I mean, come July, that no movement clause kicks in for a Matthews. So you have a decision to make about signing him to an extension.
They are in such an unenviable position. They're cap strapped and can't do the thing.
Yeah.
So like, they're in a position where a lot of other teams haven't been that one. Like Chicago did a lot of winning before the Kane Taves 10-5s. Matter of fact, I think they won all 3 cups before they got the matching 10-5s, which at the time nobody argued with, because they were like, these guys could retire today and go into the Hall of Fame. They won 3 Stanley friggin' Cups.
Yep.
Kopitar Doughty. 2 cups before they got the big,
Yep.
big cheddar.
Mm-hmm.
And I know people are going to go, oh, well, your boy Ovi was getting paid. Ovechkin was like no other player in the league. Like no other player. And we will never see a guy like him ever again. I don't ever want to hear from people telling me, oh, well, you know, Matthews also has a 60-goal season. I'm like, yeah, great. Ovi had 65 when the goaltenders' pads were still gigantic.
Yep.
Because keep in mind, they didn't do that little pad trimming thing until the 16-17 season. Ovi scored 65 in 08-09. You know how many posts he hit that year, Duane? Someone actually dug this up from Russian Machine Never Breaks. Ovechkin hit 49 posts the year that he scored 65. Give me 10 of those.
Yeah, 75 goal scorer.
You know what I mean? So, and people go, oh, well, Matthews also scored. Yes, he did. And no one can ever take that away from him. He is a freak. Don't ever come to me, of all people, and tell me that Matthews is as impactful of a player ever.
Not as physical. He's not as intimidating.
He's a center.
Whatever.
Sorry,
I'm taking Alexander Ovechkin all day.
If anybody, and I'm not just trying to be like, oh, big Caps guy here. I've legitimately had people tell me, oh, well, Matthews is way more impactful at his age than Ovi was. Are you psychotic? Do you realize that he came into the league after missing what would have been his rookie year to that stupid lockout and scored 52 goals with Dinas Zubris and Jeff Halpern as his center? Do you understand what I'm saying right now?
We had Zubris here for a cup of coffee.
And Zubris, hey, I'm not Dinas Zubris was in the NHL.
Mm-hmm.
Jeff Halpern might be our new head coach. Love him to death. Not a very good centerman.
No. But still good enough to help.
52.
Still good enough to sit there and watch Alexander Ovechkin score 52.
100%. Ovechkin in his rookie year did more by himself to create offense for a team than maybe any other player I've ever seen in my life other than McDavid.
Yep.
But even McDavid has had Draisaitl around for a lot of it.
Mm-hmm.
And McDavid in his rookie year got hurt, which is why he didn't win Rookie of the Year. Like, I've never seen a rookie do what Ovi did.
No, it was nuts. And then him and Crosby, because of the lockout, they had their rookie years the same year. And
I said this, and he beat Crosby. I said this a day ago. We were talking about this, just how crazy the two of them are. Like, when they both retire, like, no bullshit, they should build statues of the two of them in front of the NHL headquarters in New York. I'm actually completely serious about that.
The amount of money made off those two players individually,
astronomical.
And then I mean, to the NHL's own fault, with McDavid, there could have been so much more money made if he had not played in such a terrible market. I wouldn't say terrible market, but unviewable
Edmonton,
market.
In comparison to other U.S. TV markets, I get what you mean. Edmonton's a great hockey town.
No, we're not knocking the hockey town. I'm knocking the fact that as a hockey fan on the East Coast, most of the season,
he's not in prime time.
At 10 o'clock at night, which isn't happening.
He's not in prime time. I agree.
No.
And like, we got sidetracked there, but my point though is, because we're talking about Matthews and the legitimacy of keeping or trading him. I'm okay if they keep him, but if they keep him, they were talking about it on Overdrive. I couldn't wait to watch Overdrive on Monday. I think they're the best. And I know my buddy Caleb Cameron's watching right now, who just retired from pro hockey, all-time leader of the team he played for down in Georgia, the Macon Mayhem. They retired his number. I know he's going into the front office. Huge Leaf fan. And I know Cameron's watching. I'm fine if they keep Matthews, but I agree with what the Overdrive guys are saying. He cannot go in to these negotiations and try and get every penny like he did last time, and like Marner did last time, and like Nylander did the time before that. I understand that this is a stupid argument to some people because of the state tax system. and I understand that. But I've said this to you before. Optically, and I know there's a difference here because of the state tax stuff. I get it. But optically, when I just look at numbers on a sheet and I see that Mitch Marner makes more than Nikita Kucherov, I get it. State tax, I get it.
Mm-hmm.
It looks bizarre to me.
Yeah, it does.
When I see Austin Matthews makes more than Leon Draisaitl or Big O or Sid, I still think Sid's a freak. Like the guy's
still putting 85 plus points up a season.
Like, I look at that and yes, 60 goals. I know. It's just that, like, wouldn't you rather a cup? Like, 60, and he still might win one. We don't know. But I just look at it and I'm like, I don't know what these guys are thinking. And they're going to have to take a sacrifice, Matthews here, the first one up for a contract. He can't go in there
really
and be like, I want 14 million.
How much do you care about winning a cup? Because if you give him you historically, after, especially with a 60 goal season under his belt, you would think he would get a raise in pay, which he will. But you have to really ask yourself, if you're Austin Matthews, how much do I care about winning a Stanley Cup here in Toronto? Because the way the cap is right now, it's not going to happen. It's just not.
It's just hard because, and again, I liked what Jamie Noodles McLennan said. Like, I think everybody should get paid exactly what they want and deserve, because frankly, all these guys, because of this stupid hard cap, deserve way. McDavid should be making $25 million a year.
Yeah.
Like, Ovi should be making 20. Sid should have been making 20. Like, but this is the system we're in. And as much as I believe in that, and he should get a raise if he's making a little over 12, like, yes, he should get a raise. Like, the production is what it is, playoffs aside here. That said, though, other guys do it.
Mm-hmm.
So it's
how
hard.
Much more does that extra $1 million really mean to you in the grand scheme of things of winning a Stanley Cup?
It's just, man, are they in a rough
Is Kyle
spot.
Dubas out?
There's the thing too, right? Like, there's so many storylines here. I personally think that he should stay.
He did everything he could, honestly.
I thought his trade deadline was great.
Yeah, McCabe, Brody, O'Reilly.
Well,
Lafferty.
Brody was there already, but yeah.
I'm sorry, but yeah. Well, who
Lafferty, Gustafson.
No, I'm sorry, Luke Shen. I don't know why I said Brody. Luke Shen, Lafferty, O'Reilly, Jake McCabe. They got tougher, a lot tougher on their blue line with those two guys alone.
100%. And I'm glad you inadvertently brought up Brody. I thought TJ Brody, like, God love the guy. He was horrifying. And that's what I mean, though. Like, they need a big dog on defense. Morgan Riley
needed a guy like Ekholm.
Dude, 100%. Like, they don't even necessarily need like an 85 point, like, back and forth stud, Makar, McAvoy, those guys. They don't even necessarily need that. They need somebody who is an elite defender. They don't have one. Brody and McCabe were supposed to be their like shutdown pair. I thought TJ Brody was a train wreck against Florida. Everybody likes to pick on Justin Hall against Tampa, and deservedly so. God help him. If they bring him back, they should fire Dubas the second he signs him. They can't bring him back. But Brody is supposed to be like this steady Eddie shutdown guy. Man, that overtime goal that Reinhart scored, that was utterly crazy the way he played that. And that's supposed to be your best shutdown guy.
I'm taking Rat. If I had the choice, I would, outside of Morgan Riley, I'm taking Radko Gudas over any defenseman on that team.
Yeah, Gudas is a
love Gudas.
Gudas is an interesting guy. Like, the one thing you can say for Gudas is that, like, he is super annoying. It doesn't take a shift off. He doesn't bring much else other than that. However, he's a piece that fits well.
Defender.
Hey, but he's a piece that fits well into the attitude of what has made Florida successful. Unrelenting punishment. And I said this on our show, and this is going to be the challenge for Carolina. Florida's stick checking is far and away the best of any of the teams left in the playoffs.
Yep.
They are ridiculous at stick checking and stripping pucks. And that's why, despite that deserved to win-o-meter nonsense and expected goals and everything.
I hate that thing. I hate that shit.
But all of that being in favor of the Leafs for bulks of the series, that's why Florida still beat them, because they were relentless at getting the puck back and just getting it away from danger areas. It doesn't matter if you outchance a team when they're more opportunistic and their guys show up and yours just don't. One goal, man. Yikes.
Yep, I agree. We spent a ton of time here on the Leafs. Honestly, I think that if you had asked me which of the two were to go, I'd say Keefe before Dubas.
He's been outcoached in every loss.
Yeah, 100%.
Every single one.
We did have a comment here to start the show from Richard Isaacs. With the Leafs possibly not re-signing Bunting, which I think would be a huge mistake. But do you think it would be a good fit for as in the Sabres, our top 9, bottom 6? I would love me some Bunting. I think he's a great hockey player. Very tough, rough around the edges. I don't know what it would cost, but I think it'd be a mistake for Toronto not to re-sign that guy if they can.
That's going to be the thing though, right? He's got to try and cash in, and I fully support, right? Like, so, and again, he's a pest on the ice. Yeah, absolutely. Like, particularly last season where he had that breakout, like he proved he can be a really effective player. I do think he'd be a fit for Buffalo on that note. I really, really do. And, like, he was
Cousins
900. Oh man, dude, that's a pesky line.
Yeah.
There's a scenario where Bunting may actually thrive more because he would not have to be the guy who's solely responsible for getting the puck. Cousins can make room for himself. He's a big boy, So I think he actually would be, if the potential situation arises, I think he would be a fit for Buffalo. And, he's been making $950,000. What a signing and find by Dubas, again, to give him some love. He's probably going to want something in the $3 to $5 million range.
Yeah.
If he signs something like a 4 or 5 year deal, let's just say for pretend's sake with the Sabres, at something like 3.75 or 3.8, like, I think that's a pretty darn good deal for both sides. Because let's be perfectly fair here, he had a bit of a slump compared to his first year in Toronto this year. And then, he got himself into some really goofy Kadri-esque trouble with that suspension. So he is a little bit of a head case based on what we've seen, but he's also talented and works really, really hard and has grinded his whole life to get here. It's incredible he's here. I think if that's a deal that's on the table, I think it would really benefit both sides.
Agreed. I would love me some Michael Bunting. I addressed the blue line first as a Sabres fan. We just mentioned the name, Radko Gudas. He's a right-handed shot defenseman. Owen Power doesn't need another guy on the opposite side to carry the puck or carry the play. He does that fine on his own. He needs his Samuelson, which Dahlin has, and gave him the ability to be as successful as he was this season. Find that guy for Owen Power, and I think you might have the best 1-2 punch in the NHL in terms of your blue line with Dahlin and Power. Having two complete pairings. I shouldn't say the best, but in terms of how complete your top two pairings are, if you can find that guy for Owen Power, man, who's I expect to take a massive step next season after his rookie year, nominated for the Calder Trophy. Find that guy. But yeah, Michael Bunting, I'd be all over that if I'm Kevin Adams. That'd be an unbelievable signing. I don't know what his status is, UFA, RFA.
He is a UFA.
He is a UFA. I'd be all over that. Oh my God. Transition onto that. Oilers, McDavid, and Leon early exit once again. What needs to be done in Edmonton? What happened? It's not for a lack of production from your top two players. Was it goaltending? Was it Skinner? Some wonky goals for sure, but I don't know if I put it 100. I would have, and I think there's some validity, or however you say it, validity to the case that they should have started Jack Campbell in Game 7. I think that anytime he played very well. I mean, it looks like to me, it looked like Skinner had the yips a little bit in that. Maybe couldn't live to the moment, being his first time in that moment. I think a guy like Jack Campbell as a 1B brings a very calming presence to any net. I thought that maybe they should have gone with him even before then.
Yeah, it's tough to say, and like they're taking it, like they should as a step backward. I mean, this is a team that went to a Western Conference final last year, and they didn't. They wanted to go to a cup final and beyond, and they didn't do that. And yeah, I think this is a different situation than the Leafs, where like, your top guys were rolling. Draisaitl was, looking like he was going to be on pace if they moved on to break the all-time playoff goals record.
Yep.
It was insane watching what he was doing. I think it's a little bit of a combination of both. Like the goaltending obviously let them down, and yes, Campbell in spot duty, because that's what he was reduced to for fair reason, looked good. Yeah. In hindsight, maybe it's easy now to go, yeah, maybe they should have put Jack in. At the end of the day,
make, because Skinner was your workhorse.
Hey, down the stretch and really basically from Christmas on, Skinner was way better than Campbell. Like that contract is looking pretty scary right now, unless Jack can settle himself down. Ken Holland, like we're talking about Kyle Dubas, like Ken Holland, like, is that dude in some trouble here? Yes, he made a brilliant trade, and like getting Ekholm in like really seemed to boost them, and the numbers would suggest that. They had a lot of guys that they kind of ran into an old Capitals situation where the big two guys were rolling and the other guys on the team did not do enough to help them out. Like Yamamoto, not very good. Darnell Nurse making 9.25. I believe he gets 2.5. Was just dude. He looked like Bambi out there, a big lanky guy with that size, and he was falling. Oh, dude, he was tripping all over himself. It was hard to watch, honestly. Like I like the guy. Do I think he is a $9 million defenseman? I absolutely don't. I don't think he's far worse than that, and certainly not what he looked like in these playoffs. But man, that hurt them. A guy that's making 9.25 on your back end, he plays like that. Yikes. Then you combine that with the leaky goaltending at times. Sometimes it was good. Sometimes it was very not. It's a recipe for probably not success. And that's ultimately what we ended up with. I just think
is signed. Is he signed beyond this season still? Does he have another year left?
I believe he has a year or two, if I'm not mistaken.
That's a good move for them, because I think he brings a lot of stability to the blue line. I think it's at least 1 year left.
Well, he did. I think so too. At a little over 6,
because Nashville just re-signed him not too long ago.
Yeah, I think he was 3 or 4 years into it, like a 6-year extension.
Yeah. So
yeah, I think he has some time left, but even if he doesn't, they got to find a way to keep him if that's not the case.
Yeah.
But yeah, I just feel like, they ran into a stretch of bad play for too many of their lineup, or too many of their players in their lineup rather. And the goaltending didn't make enough saves that probably should have been saves. So again, like I wouldn't sit there and put any of this on Draisaitl and McJesus. Like they were Draisaitl and McJesus. Everybody else did not raise their play enough to help those two guys. Hey, those two guys can only be on the ice for 25, 26 minutes.
Yep.
Other guys have got to play on the ice for the other, roughly 40.
Mm-hmm.
That's hockey.
Yep, it is. Yeah, there's always going to be rumors floating around after a disappointing season like that, especially on your star player, but we've always heard it. We just talked about Matthews being traded. Any shot ever, one of the big two is shipped out. I mean, I don't think
in
so.
Edmonton?
In Edmonton. I don't think there's a shot, but
I'd
it's fun to speculate, but I don't think there's a shot.
I would lay the mortgage that I don't have that won't happen.
Yeah.
Like, no way. You're not trading McDavid. No way. There's if there's any guy in the league where you will not get even close to fair, you could trade 20 first-round picks, and I wouldn't do it.
No.
There's just nothing that you're going to get that you can because how do we know that over the next 20 years, even if let's say 5 of those picks are first overalls, look what happened to all those first overalls that they had in the past. Yep. They didn't turn into the dynamic generational talent. Ryan Nugent-Hopkins, he had a 100-point season this year. Good for him. I love the news.
Which is wild. He had the most sneakiest.
Oh, dude. No one talked about it.
100-point season I've ever seen.
But you know why? Because McDavid and Draisaitl are there. That's why. You cannot trade either of those guys.
If there was a guy that I think would get traded, it'd probably be him.
It could be him.
Value will never be higher than it is right now.
I agree. I agree. If you're looking to get the sledgehammer out, his value has never been higher. That guy gets
you. How old is he?
Oh, he would be 28 or 9 now?
If he's not 30
yet.
He's
first overall in 2012. He was first overall in 2012. So
30,
he might be
30.
That makes sense. First overall in 2012.
I would not be surprised if they dealt him. If he doesn't have any no movement clause in his deal, imagine the return. You can build up assets.
You could get another good defenseman and maybe a top 9 forward.
Yep. And get a first round pick.
Because it would depend on the players coming back. But I agree. It would depend on the team trading too. I certainly think though that there's merit to that, because what have we heard last year, even when they went to the Western Conference Final, and this year, our details were off. So maybe you could go get some players who have really great defensive acumen and pay attention to details that can erase some of those details related issues. That's a lot more likely. And I mean, then you absolutely no way in absolute hell that McDavid goes anywhere. And I feel the exact same about Draisaitl, because when he's on,
they're going to speculate this offseason.
Oh, yeah, because they have to do that. It's the media. They're going to, they're trying to write a story. But for Draisaitl, it's twofold for me. And again, I said a few minutes ago, McDavid's underpaid, like most superstars in this league, all of them, to be fair. But it's even more so with Draisaitl, because on any given night, he can be the second best player in the world, which he often is. And he makes 8.5. Oh my God. What a contract. What a contract.
How many years are left on that deal?
Oh, I would say 3 or 4.
Fuck, man. Time is now.
3 anyway, I think. There's lots of good examples, but can you find me a better deal?
Tage Thompson.
Yeah.
7.2.
Yeah.
If he does it again next year.
Tage, I'll give you that. And Tage had an unbelievable year, but I mean, it's Draisaitl.
I know. I'm not disagreeing with you.
Holy. There's no way those two guys are going anywhere. That'd be crazy.
I would agree, though. I think if there is a guy that's going to get shipped out, it'd be Nuge for sure. I think that guy, his value will never be higher than it is right now, and he's 30.
I agree with that. I agree with that. His value 100% will never ever be higher.
Let me look at his let me see if he has a no movement clause, because
He may.
This could be a whole
he
mute
may.
point. This could be a mute point right now. Let's talk about Nugent Hopkins getting traded. Yep. Oh yeah, he's not going. He's got a no movement clause.
Okay.
So mute point. But okay. Talk about bang for your buck. 100-point season. Ask me how much he makes a season.
He makes something like 6.2, doesn't he? Is it less than that? Does he make 6 right on? It's still less. I thought he signed $6 million. What's he getting paid?
He is signed through 2029. Cap hit of 5.125.
That's crazy.
He signed an 8-year deal for $41 million.
That's now you're almost talking me into not trading him.
I know.
But man, what a value.
But the thing is, the return you'll get will be insane for the value of that contract. Plus, he's a 100-point player. The only leg, somebody trying to oppose a return in negotiations was like, well, he's playing with Drysdale, he's playing with McDavid. I'm like, well, go fucking find him a guy to play with then, and he'll give you 80+ points a year.
You know what? I doubt it would happen because they're kind of rivals, but if you're Colorado, are you not maybe picking up the phone and asking, what's Nuge doing this summer?
Well, they did it with Kadri. I mean, Kadri wasn't as, a player that, produced as much as Nugent Hopkins did this. Actually, wait, I'm lying. He did have an unbelievable year.
McKinnon was hurt, right? And he really cranked it up.
I don't know what I'm talking about. He carried the load. And he was in MVP talks for a cup of coffee for a little bit there.
Yeah, he was. Colorado and Colorado, speaking of, just feel gutted for Gabe Landeskog. So that might end up freeing up even more money for Colorado, right? To get active here. Are they going to call Winnipeg and say, hey, what's Pierre-Luc Dubois think? Because they need that number 2 center back because they lost that in Kadri. What's up with the Nichushkin situation? What a weird
dude.
I can't even dig into that. But Colorado, they're going to have an opportunity to be active.
And there's a guy.
If Landeskog can't ever play,
and that's a guy that you just don't expect to lose in Tushkin. Like that was just so. It was kept so quiet too.
It was weird. There's going to be some. I can guarantee you, somebody from the Athletic is digging away at that. There's going to be some stuff that.
Who was it that broke the Kyle Beach story?
Well, that was a combo of people. That was Rick Westhead, Scott Power, Lazarus, all those guys, Chicago, Katie Strang. That was a group of people, but that's what they do. And a similar thing, I'm sure, is going to happen with this because what a bizarre story. Anyway, 100%. I digress.
Speaking of, Chicago, obviously they won the draft lottery. I've made my feelings known quite a bit. I think it's atrocious. I don't care if the players on the team had nothing to do with it now. I don't care if the old regime's gone. I still feel it's disgusting that a team that did what they did for as long as they did just got gift wrapped the next McDavid.
Yeah, I agree. It feels really unfair. And again, it's just another goofy fuel to the fire for the conspiracy theorists, right? It sucks. I really, I feel the same way. And it's not his fault. And it's not the current group's, fault that's there in Chicago now, Kyle Davidson and the like. However, it's hard not to feel, an injustice has occurred, if you will, karmically. And I hope that doesn't carry over to affect Bedard himself, because we all, I think, want to see that kid do the incredible things we all think and know he is capable of. But I agree. It was an extremely bizarre and bummer thing to watch. It can make you feel sometimes like there's no justice, but karma always comes around. And I think that he's going to be a great NHL player. But it is weird to me, that the Blackhawks got fined $2 million for that.
That's my thing too. And I'm just tweeting out our topic right now, but that's my biggest thing of this is we had talked about this, how the league polices things. And when you look at what they did at face value, and you take a look at other leagues, like who was the owner? Was it the LA Clippers owner, the basketball owner for
the leaked tape? Yep.
They made him sell the team.
Yep.
Like he was blacklisted. The Arizona Coyotes in your own league for, combine infractions, stripped of a first round pick. And I think another pick,
Yeah. First and like a third or something. Yeah. And like we've seen, recently in the Ontario Hockey League, the Niagara Ice Dogs get clipped again for infractions, and they're going to surrender their first round pick next year again. For things far less. Now the Ice Dogs won. I actually thought the league, did a good job coming down hard on that, like all the alleged hazing and bullying stuff, and those two players that were allegedly involved in it are banned from the league for life, and they lose their scholarship packages. Very harsh punishment for those involved, right? Given what that means for their futures and obviously the owner of that team. And then you look at the Chicago thing at such a higher level with so much higher stakes in a sport that generates billions of dollars and has all these resources that are supposedly available to people. And then you look at what occurred there, and the overt effort is what I would call it, an overt effort to cover it up and keep it all quiet, which resulted in the guy, the video coach, I don't even want to say his name, going to a school and committing and victimizing more young men because you said nothing. Yes. And then you get fined $2 million, and it was jarring to just be like, oh, and they made it all back that night through season Jersey ticket packages. Sales. That feels shitty.
Yeah, and
I don't have anything else.
Imagine how Kyle Beach feels. Imagine how the unknown.
I don't even want to.
The unnamed black ace player feels. Imagine about those kids that we just spoke. Like I don't want to say we get lost in it, but people forget that there was another player involved in this that hasn't been named. People forget that after they let him resign quietly with letter of recommendation, that he went on to assault more kids.
And they let him have a day with the cop.
Why were they not held accountable for that too? Because you can't. It's disgusting that it was a $2 million fine. Dude, if the Detroit Lions did this exact same thing and shit hit the fan, and the extent of how bad this was, there would have been talk about them being dissolved. They might have dissolved the team.
Potentially, or in the very least, the NFL would have made them, they would have went the Donald Sterling route and made them, everybody involved, sell the team and get fired, right?
But Rocky Wirtz, he still owns the team. You're not going to sit here and convince me that he didn't know. How is the owner of the team the only guy in upper management that didn't know? I agree. Okay.
I agree.
I'm not blind and I'm not dumb, man. Like, don't tell me the old regime is gone. No, he's still there. And he knew. And everyone saw his reaction to when Lazarus brought it up at that town hall and how he reacted just to hearing Kyle Beach's name.
That was crazy. He should have been fined more right then. But that's what this is. Gary Bettman's a puppet for Rocky Wirtz and the other owners, and that's just not going to happen.
Mm-hmm. And it just, to me, it's disgusting, and it sucks because
The best thing we can hope for here is that they continue to suck, and he just says, check, please.
Yeah.
Bedard, I mean.
Yeah.
And it's like, get me out of here.
I hope so. Or, it'll never happen, but I hope he pulls an Eric Lindros and says, I'm not playing for you. Like, that'd be fantastic, but it'll never happen.
I think of any time when that has happened, Lindros 2 times. Because remember, Lindros did that in the OHL too.
Yep.
And was like, I'm not going to, I believe, the Sioux. And was like, send me to Oshawa. And then he did it again in the NHL. Eli Manning, go down the list. I think of any time that a guy would ever pull that off that would be universally praised for it, it would be Bedard. And I don't think it will happen. But if he did and was like, I'm not putting this jersey on, I'm not playing for this franchise. If he did do that, it would be universally celebrated throughout the sport.
Yep. And it wouldn't be it wouldn't be a black eye on the team or on the league. Like, you just had a player take a real stand for victims and survivors everywhere. A potential superstar.
I agree, and I think, and there are old dinosaurs out there who go, playing in this league's a privilege. You don't do that, blah, blah, blah. Well, you know what? Again, my response to that would be, nobody has empathy. It seems sometimes, which is why I'm spending a lot less time on like social media and stuff, because it's just not a good representation of how people are. But my response to people that say stuff like that always is, well, would you feel the same way if Kyle Beach was your son?
Yeah.
If it happened to your family, would you feel the same? Could you honestly sit there and say to me, well, I still think it's great that Chicago got this kid, even though the organization covered up my son being sexually assaulted and humiliated by the team staff, that coach, and the league, really, at the end of the day, in the course of this investigation. I'm still totally fine with Chicago getting this. I would hope, as a sane person that loves your family and loves your kids, your brother, whatever, that would not be your response. And so that's my response.
And I don't even
you wouldn't feel that way if it was your family.
No. And again, I hope, I beg and hope that maybe him and his family do take a stand against that, because, and this has nothing, listen, they should have never been in the position to have that opportunity in the draft lottery to begin with. But for me, it's just like,
listen, you want to be a real shit disturber here? Here's something hilarious, and that would be karmically appropriate, in my opinion. What if he was like, I know we're playing real pretend here, but what if he was like, not only am I not going to play for this organization, I want you to trade me to the Vancouver Canucks.
And puts them in a position where now they hurt their own value of the potential.
Can you imagine? And then, of course, Chicago could just go, well, we're not doing that, and not sign him, and then he just re-enters the draft.
Yeah, literally.
Yeah, like I think that, or no, he wouldn't re-enter the draft. He's not a college free agent, but they would still retain his rights, but like eventually they would have to break and trade him, right? If he was like, well, I'll just go play in Sweden for 3 years or something. Yeah. And I know this is a wild thing. Like, we're making up stuff that just, we know this sport too well. That's just not happening.
No,
but oh my God, like, could you imagine the drama, that whole Vancouver, Chicago hate? And he was like, you're sending me to play at home. I'm not playing for this organization. You're sending me to Vancouver or nowhere.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
You do it silently. It says, I want to go to Vancouver, and you have this long to make it happen. If not, I'm going public and telling them what I want.
Yep.
So
That'd be something, man.
right? Could you imagine? Could you
You make a
imagine
movie about
being in
that.
Vancouver and getting that phone call from Chicago? Hey, how do you feel about the first overall pick? Like, I think I will shit uncontrollably immediately. Like, wait, you really want to
The
trade that? You really want to trade that pick?
the beautiful mountains that I was just on top of in Vancouver would literally shift
Yeah.
like
Oh,
on their tectonic plates, just like that would be that would be a crazy story. I'm here for it. I love
right.
chaos.
I
Let's do it.
I love chaos. I love it. We'll wrap up here in a few minutes, but I do want to bring up one thing. One of two things. And it's not something I've looked very much forward to talking about at all, and that is Jack Eichel.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Hmm. The
If I
spine
have to
looks
see
pretty
him-
good.
If I have, I'll never, and you know this too. You've been on me. We've talked about Jack so many times. I was on the side of letting him get the surgery. I wanted him to get the surgery that he wanted.
I know you were.
I was all on the side. It all changed for me the moment he got. Two things changed for me. It started with that random Elliot Friedman interview right after the trade.
Yeah.
That bugged me. That really bugged me because you didn't have to do that. You really didn't. You had a lot of people here in Buffalo that were on your side. You know what I mean? Like, you didn't have to do that. And then you follow it up. Everybody gets booed when you come back in Buffalo. Everybody. It doesn't matter who you are. You get booed. You do. Granted, they booed him unrelentlessly. There were chants, but you're going to get booed. And for you to expect not to get booed is insane to me. But to make the comments he made, I was like, fuck that. You just showed your true colors to me.
Yeah, the comments after the game were iffy.
It was never a question of ability because he is phenomenal. He is a phenomenal hockey player.
Yep,
but
he is.
If I have to see him in the finals, I'm putting a pencil in my eye, Drew. I'm just doing it.
Yeah, I'm sorry, because it might happen. Now, mind you, if it makes you feel any better for whatever this is worth, I did pick the Dallas Stars to win the Stanley Cup when the playoffs started in my bracket, which is treating me very well. So, yeah you never know. But, man, give a guy his due. Like, ever since he got healthy and kind of caught fire with the team down the stretch and in these playoffs, he's been really good. He's been really, really good. He had a hell of a second round.
Yeah, I mean,
that'll be tough for you.
I've talked a lot of shit, Ryan. I've talked a lot of shit. I've made a lot of GIFs. I've made a lot of memes. I've made a lot of videos.
Your Twitter feed might get active.
Yes, I am 1,000%, and I don't care what anyone wants to say. Because of 1999. I am a Dallas Stars fan right now, through and through.
I'm sure you are.
I am right now. I would so much rather see Dallas win another cup rather than see Jack Eichel play for a cup. So, fuck that. But he did have a phenomenal. Did he output? And here's the thing too. They were over $10 million over the cap. The whole cap circumvention bullshit. They did not. I mean, they played by the rules, but they pulled the Tampa Bay Lightning. You know what I mean? They were much over
Chicago.
Yep.
Numerous teams have done it.
Not saying that would have helped. You know, if it was more of an even playing field in terms of, you know, cap space and, you know, not circumventing the cap, because on the other side you had Leon Draisaitl and Connor McDavid. You should be able to win that series. You had a guy who had almost 160 points this season. You know, Draisaitl, who was second in the league in scoring, not that far behind McDavid. You know, I'm not considering.
I thought Edmonton was going to win. So
did I. I thought when they were up 2-1 in game 6 game 7. I'm sorry. No, game 6. Sorry, game 6. That they were going to pull that one out. They were going to sneak that one out, and then that wonky goal went in on Skinner. where it popped up over his head. He's looking for it, and that's every goalie's worst nightmare too. I know fans probably got on his case that is literally every goalie's worst nightmare, man. When you can't find that puck, it's up somewhere and you're looking for it. That's every
100%.
goalie's worst nightmare, man.
Yeah.
If anything, I want my defenseman to destroy, who is it, Martinez in the crease? I want somebody on my team to destroy him, because I would much rather take a penalty there than have that puck drop in my paint. 100%. But I digress. I don't want to deal with it, Drury. I can't do it.
I'll pray for you, man. It's I don't know. It'll be a tough one for sure.
The last thing we'll talk about, and then we'll end the show, is there was some rumors going around today about Mr. Connor Hellebuck potentially, and I want to say it might have been Merrick that might have said something. I have to go back and look, or maybe it was Russo. I forget who it was. There was reports that the Sabres may be a contender to land Connor Hellebuck in a trade, especially after his end of season press conference, and that didn't go as well as you would hope for if you were hoping that you wanted to sign him to an extension. He wasn't very transparent about wanting to stay. He's going to be 30 years old. Buffalo has already been tied to him. I, for one, I am not for a Connor Hellebuck trade. I can be talked into it, but would have to do with term. I'm not signing him to an $8 million deal for 5 years. Just not doing it. No, I don't. There are very few goalies in this league that are worth $8 million plus. Is Connor Hellebuck worth it? Possibly. I don't know. Are his best years behind him, or does he have a few more left in the tank? I don't know.
Yeah, it's hard to say. I think he does. I think it would be a good trade depending on what the ask is. Because, I mean, obviously Winnipeg, I think it's common knowledge they're in selling mode. So I don't know that it would be as an egregious a package as, say, the year following his Vezina win. I mean, this guy's not that old. I think that he's got plenty of good years left. He doesn't have a terrible or super concerning injury history. Yes, he's had injuries like every other goalie, but nothing that would make me go, oh man, like there's no way I'm acquiring that guy. His talent level speaks for itself. His work ethic and his resume speak for themselves. Vezina could have won a Vezina, potentially another one of those years too, where some people felt like he should have got a second one.
Mm-hmm.
Man, I think that guy's a gamer, and I think he's burning to go and win somewhere. And if it's Buffalo or somewhere else, someone is going to get a really, really good goalie.
I love Connor Hellebuck. I'm all about a big, sturdy American goaltender. Don't get me wrong.
Hey, it'd be a nice fit, right?
It'd be a great fit. It would. It's just for me, it's term. If he's looking to sign a 2 to 3 year extension, I'm all for it. Let's go. Because I think
here's the thing though that you're not gonna like though. Here's the thing you're not gonna like is that, and I'm not saying this because I think it would be, but knowing the way front offices generally work, if I was the GM of the Winnipeg Jets, I'd be going, well, Devin Levi's coming the other way then.
Yeah, and they're not going to do that.
Well, that's what if you're Buffalo, if you're Kevin Adams and you're calling me, I'm Chevy and I'm picking the phone up. That's what I'm asking for. Oh, that's where my negotiation starts.
But at this past deadline, I mean, even Kevin said there were a lot of other trade offers on the table with Buffalo with other players, and he's flat out said Yuri Kulik and Matthew Savoy were non-starters because those were a lot of the asks. They were looking for forwards, and they said, nope, we're okay. We're not trading them. And I that's the same thing with Devin Levi. I think that he's going to be that good.
And if Buffalo feels the same way, they're probably not even talking about Connor Hellebuck because of cost.
Well, that's my thing too. Is do you want? I think, and here's the thing. I know when it comes to a young goaltender, sometimes throwing him into the fire is a little tough. But I know Devin to an extent.
Yeah, he's been on your show. He
has been. I wrote the article Kind of like his journey to Buffalo with the help of his mother and, one of his best friend. No, his best friend, Justin Ritzgoian at Northeastern. He is mature enough to be your number one next year. 100%. Because the thing about Devin is he's not the type of guy that after a bad performance or a bad goal, he doesn't let that linger. He doesn't let it affect him. He moves on to the next shot. He moves on to the next game. When he had, was it 6 or 7 goals pumped by him? I forget it was against who. He flat out said it in the post game, and he was smiling. I mean, yeah, they won, but he was smiling. He goes, "There's nothing wrong with a little adversity. It's about overcoming those things." And, I'm not afraid. Essentially, I'm not afraid to have a bad game. It happens. This is the best league in the world. It's going to happen. Any goalie that tells you different, is wrong. And it's true. So I think that's your starting goalie next year. I'm not saying I don't want to have a tandem like Boston had this year with Swayman and Olmark, but I'd be hard pressed if I'm Kevin Adams to sit there and give up a ton of assets that could have potentially help your situation with Devin Levi next year. Whether it's, a Casey Middlestat, who I don't think they have any intentions of trading. I don't think it would be draft picks. I think Winnipeg would want players, rostered players too.
Yeah, I agree.
I don't think you take those players away from this team that's going to help your goaltending now. And it's not like Winnipeg was a bad team. They were a good team. They couldn't figure it out.
Something's wrong in that room, clearly. Yeah. I mean, Rick Bowness made that abundantly clear if it wasn't already clear, which to many it was. No, I agree. And we've talked ad nauseum before about Devin and his makeup and how impressed I am with him as well. I think that the kid, he says everything and has done everything very early on here that, you want to see in a goaltender. He's a confident kid. I think you got a good one there. I agree. A Hellebuck trade is probably not necessarily in the cards for Buffalo. It'd be an interesting fit for sure. Yeah. But I think that just the trajectory of the franchise and the fact that you believe in that kid and have cost certainty on him for a while, a bit of team control, I think that probably does edge them out of it. But there'll be other teams that are looking at that guy.
Yep, 100%. Hey, Drew, remember I said when I asked you earlier to record, I said I want to record for that long.
Yeah, that's
20 minutes later.
This happens, man. It's fun.
Man,
Who cares?
It happens with you. Sometimes when
I'm pretty long-winded.
I'll rush him to get off because I get cut off all the time when I'm on with him, and sometimes it's like, oh, just get out of here. But I love talking hockey with you, dude. And if you ever anybody else who loves listen to him talk hockey, you can always catch him at the Instigating Pod. Is that at Instigating Pod, right? On Twitter?
Yeah, at Instigating Pod on social media. Yep. And you can find us on YouTube, Clarky and I. We have a lot of fun. And this week's probably going to be an interesting episode given what happened to his Leafs. So,
if you want me to come on and add fuel to the fire, I will, bud.
I think he would physically hurt me if I invited you on this week. There might be a serious altercation.
Can he reach through the screen?
Vice versa. I feel the same way. Love chatting with you, dude. And man, it's always fun.
Absolutely. Well, this has been episode 124 of Two Goalies, One Mic, brought to you by Outlet Liquor, the place to buy a case on George Urban Boulevard. Tell them the guys over at Two Goalies, One Mic sent you. They'll take care of you for these last 2 rounds of hockey. And, Drury, again, thanks for coming on, bud. Always a pleasure. And we'll talk to you next week.
Absolutely, dude.